Hey, I'm Paula. This is how to make dinner, and today I'm gonna smush some eggplants and then fill them full of stuff, and it's gonna be pretty weird, but pretty good. I got the inspiration for this video from scrolling through my YouTube feed and seeing a thumbnail of a bunch of eggplants being smushed with a rolling pin. And I gotta admit, the clickbait thumbnail really worked for me. So here we are. I thought I'd try it myself. Also, the recipe itself just looked so good, and it was completely what I was craving. So here we go. We're making eggplant. We're smushing it with a rolling pin. We're stuffing it with a really nice oniony, peppery mixture with ground beef, and it's gonna be really, really nice. So I'm gonna start off with an onion, a pepper, and about 7 cloves of garlic. And I've got my trusty pan here. And this is so cool. My new kitchen has a window right here, which means I can use this little stovetop unit, and it's like a built-in fan kind of deal. Anyway, first up, I'm just gonna chop my veg. I don't know about you, but I've been eating, like, every single dinner has been outside for the past, I wanna say, month or so, which has been so lovely. I love eating outside. So I've got the onion, the garlic, and the pepper chopped, and you can really use any pepper you want, green, red, orange, yellow, whatever. I'm heating up my pan on about medium heat. I'm gonna add in a big glug of olive oil. It's about a tablespoon. And then I'm just gonna chuck all the onions, the garlic, and the peppers straight in. And I'm gonna add in a pinch of salt. And then we're gonna wait. So after I saw the recipe with the smashed rolled eggplant, I started doing a little bit more internet investigating, and I found that there are tons of rolled smashed eggplant filled with ground beef mixture, really that come from all over the place, all over the world. Eastern Europe, Middle East, there are a lot of really similar kind of dishes. So this one is not really anything. This one is just inspired by that one that I saw, and I kind of just made it my own. But depending on which herbs and spices you use, you can really kind of take this into a few different flavor territories. Now that the veggies are softening up a bit, I'm gonna add my herb of choice, which I'm using summer savory, which you might remember from classic episodes like Bulgarian onion stew. It's one of my favorite dried herbs these days, and I'm putting a fair bit in just to kind of get that waft, release those oils. And after about 5 minutes or so, when the onions have softened, I'm gonna add the ground beef. So you can use any ground meat. You could even use, lentils or something if you wanted to make it veggie, or like Beyond Meat or some kind of vegetarian meat substitute. I'm going with ground beef because I just kind of clued in today that I don't think I've ever done a ground beef recipe on this show. I don't do a ton of meat-based things on this show at all, but I'm just really craving the ground beef vibe today, so that's what we're doing. Anyway, so that's going in, and I've got basically a pound. And I'm just gonna break it up with my wooden spoon. If I had a potato masher handy, I would probably use that to kind of get it going, really smash it up. It's one of my fave tricks, but I don't. Actually, I had to throw out my potato masher because it got rusty. I'm gonna crank up the heat a bit because I really wouldn't mind if we got a little bit of browning on some of this meat. Speaking of eggplant, I kind of shied away from eggplant for many years because I found that it always took so much oil to make it good, because I only like eggplant when it's really, really, really well cooked, like zero sponginess whatsoever. And but I always feel like, oh, it just soaks up so much oil, like I'm just eating plain pure oil. But that's why I like recipes like this, because it's kind of like, it kind of stews in its own juices. We're gonna put this in the oven in a little while with a cover on it, and it just kind of steams and sweats. And I'm curious if the smushing does anything too. We're gonna leave one eggplant unsmushed to kind of have a A/B test. So the beef is totally cooked through now. To finish off this meat mixture, I'm actually just gonna add in a bit of red wine because I have some that needs to be used. Thanks, Mom. And I love wine in cooking. So I'm gonna use like a glass. Totally not necessary, but if you've got it, why not? And then I'm just gonna add a bit of this like strained tomatoes. Crushed tomatoes, strained tomatoes, just like a plain tomato and salt kind of jarred product is what we're looking for. Just a bit, like maybe that's what, half a cup or so? And then once that's all mixed together and the wine is reduced, I'm just gonna set it off to the side and we can start talking about eggplant. All right, so I've got some really nice eggplants here. They're kind of like on the small side, which I like. I'm not a huge fan of those big giant ones. So I'm just gonna smash them with a rolling pin. And I'm so curious about this. I think that the main thing that this will do is create a bit of space inside for the filling, because without smashing, they're just kind of solid. But when you do this, you're kind of busting up the innards. So if nothing else, it'll make more space for beefy goodness. Oh yeah, check it out. It's like super floppy. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. And like I said, I am gonna leave one unsmashed just to see the difference. I did do a little bit of reading on why people smash eggplants with a rolling pin, but I didn't find much info. So if you are a seasoned eggplant roller smasher, I'd love it if you'd fill us all in. Let us know in the comments what the deal is, other than just making more space for mixture. I'm gonna use 3 eggplants all together, so I'm gonna leave this one unsmashed. And I'm just gonna cut them lengthways. Oh no, I wasn't supposed to cut it all the way through. I was supposed to leave it like a hinge. Okay, so that's that. I already messed up. So leave a little bit of a hinge on the bottom, and you can see that it's kind of like bruised inside. Interesting. I'm only leaving the green top on because I like the way it looks. Look at that. It almost looks like it's pre-cooked it a little bit, you know? I could probably fit one more in here, but I think, could I? Yeah, I'm gonna do 4. I'm gonna do 4. I love it. It's so fun. Okay, so I've got my little meat pocket in here. And just got to get my mixture. And we're just going to stuff these guys. Good. Perfectly seasoned, doesn't need salt. I'm just going to fit as much of this as I can in here. Oh yeah. See, already the one that I didn't smash is awkward because there's no room inside for the filling. That's reason enough for me. Okay, so I've got quite a bit of mixture still, but I feel like I can just shove it in. Next, I'm gonna just take the rest of this strained tomato, crushed tomato business and drip it all around the edges of the eggplant. This is gonna help it to steam, and it's also just gonna create a really nice sauce because that meat mixture will kind of combine with this to make a sauce. The eggplant is gonna release a lot of liquid, and then that'll kind of loosen up the sauce a bit, and everything's gonna work together just perfectly. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna do is just chuck a couple of tomato halves on top, just because I like the way it looks. Just one cherry tomato on each one. I have the oven preheating at 425, and I'm gonna throw these in with a lid on. I'm just gonna use an upside down baking sheet and let them cook for about 30 minutes and see how they feel. Basically, they're done as soon as the eggplant are totally soft. So, see you in a bit. Would you just get a load of these guys? Look how nice. Okay, so the tomato garnish thing that I did kind of backfired because they ended up gluing themselves to the baking sheet. So I'm just gonna put some freshies on. No one will ever know the difference. So I think that this is like a one per person kind of deal, and it'll go really, really nicely with a salad. We're gonna have probably some kind of tomato, cheese, onion kind of shopska style salad tonight, and I'm pretty darn pumped. I do wish that I had a lot of fresh parsley right now because I would just chuck tons of parsley on these, but I don't. So I do have dill though. Do you think dill would be good? Just for some green. I feel like a fresh hit of green is always nice. So which one am I gonna go for? Okay, so honestly, the non-smashed one looks the same as all the rest, but it was a little bit harder to stuff. I'm gonna just go on a limb and say that it tastes the exact same. Okay, let's see if I can get one on a plate here. Oh baby. So I'm gonna put some sauce around it. A fair bit of sauce. I feel like I'm gonna want sauciness, you know, because I just know myself. And then I'll chuck some dill on top. Parsley, dill, again, fresh mint. I feel like would be really good in this. Something green. And maybe a blob of yogurt. Okay. That is so good. And the dill is so good. Maybe it's just because I'm dill obsessed. I feel like it's good on everything. Now, the one thing that I will say is I probably should have put a bit of salt right in the inside of the eggplant after I split them open. But the mixture was pretty well seasoned, so it's pretty good as is. But I'm really into that. I'm excited for dinner. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that I enlightened you somewhat about smashing eggplants. Again, if you are an expert in this, if you're an expert in eggplant rolling, or you have a little bit of insight into why it's commonly done, let us know in the comments. And thanks so much for joining me, and I'm excited to dig in, and I'm excited to see you again next week. Hi. That's it. The boys are home. It's time for dinner. Bye.